Yo, it's your boy Darius the Great. I got something to say. I got something to say about the Batman. Whew. Now, I took a few days in between seeing the movie. I saw it on Thursday. And I took a few days, of course, to collect my thoughts, to go see the movie again, so I can have my exact feelings about this movie. Now, what are those feelings? This is, without a shadow of a doubt, the second greatest Batman movie ever made. And I know in some people's eyes it may beat The Dark Knight, but for me, The Dark Knight is still king. It still reigns supreme. But I will say, Matt Reeves came close. Because as I was watching this film, I was sitting there in the theater looking up like, this might be the greatest Batman movie of all time. This might be the greatest Batman movie of all time. But then, of course, afterwards, I kind of came back down to reality. I'm like, no, it's not. But it's a very good second place. Now, this is going to be a quick little, spoiler talk, spoiler, review. Me kind of rambling about the movie. So if you haven't seen it, number one, go see it. But if you haven't seen it, pause the video, come back later, and then enjoy this little spoiler talk of mine. Now, I gotta do this. I gotta do this right here. Matt Reeves, man. Matt Reeves directed like his life depended on it. It's insane. Like his direction, the cinematography, the writing. This, what this feels like to me, right? Currently we live in the day and age where there's a big debate about the Oscars, and how the Oscars won't, properly recognize, blockbusters, specifically comic book movies and superhero movies. They won't recognize them in the Oscars. They won't recognize them as, film. They'll give them, every time we come around to the Oscars, a Marvel or a DC movie will get like a technical award. They'll get, best costume design, best special effects. Pretty much, them saying we have to give them something. They're not good enough to be, in the best picture, best actor, best director. They're not good enough to be there. But they can get some technology awards because, they have some really good costumes, some really good makeup, some really good CGI, special effects. And this movie feels like Matt Reeves sat there and went, I'm going to make a Batman movie that cannot be denied is Oscar worthy. Now, what Oscar? If it's up to me, and it may not be good if it was up to me, I would honestly say this movie is best picture worthy, or at least best director worthy. Give him that, okay? Because this is one of those movies, one of those rare superhero movies that there's not much you can really say about it that's wrong. I know some people will sort of nitpick, but they're kind of grasping at straws there, It's like, there's not much wrong with this movie. Not much. Same with Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight is nearly flawless. The Batman, a little less so, but still, is not a lot that you can really pick at. I have a few, negatives, but I'll save that for a little later. I'm gonna get into the positives right now. Positives. Robert Pattinson killed it as Batman. He killed it as Batman. He is now my second favorite Batman. My little quick ranking is, Christian Bale. It was Ben Affleck. Now it's Robert Pattinson. So now it's Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck. Just off the top of my head, I could say, Keaton, Kilmer, Adam West, and then Clooney. But Robert Pattinson in this movie, he does such a good job at bringing the character of Batman to life. Like, he embodies the character, much like Ben Affleck embodied, that perfect older Batman. Christian Bale really embodied that, like, he's not young, but he's kind of young Batman. But Pattinson really embodied this young Batman. Like, I'm watching the movie, I'm just like, this is Batman. This guy is Batman. I don't see, Twilight. I don't see any of that. This is Batman here. His Bruce Wayne, His Bruce Wayne is pretty much the same as Batman here, and that's a little bit of a negative, but it's a negative that I think will become a positive if they do more films. Because I think the way the movie ends shows that he has room to create that Bruce Wayne playboy billionaire persona, which he hasn't yet. He hasn't done that yet. And at various points in this film, people will make comments about, at him as Bruce, you need to be doing more. You need to come out of the shadows. Stop being a recluse. You need to do more with your money. And I think going into the next movie, if we get another one, hopefully we will. I think we will. In movies, like a second or third movie, we'll probably see him be more the playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne. But even his Bruce Wayne just being like a tortured soul, he played it really well. Really well. So he was a phenomenal Batman. I love his Batman. Zoe Kravitz Catwoman. She's my favorite Catwoman now. And the Catwoman in the movies, Michelle Pfeiffer, iconic. Anne Hathaway, I really, really loved. But Zoe Kravitz brought a different side to Catwoman. It's like she's not even Catwoman yet, but you can see the makings are there to become Catwoman. And the movie ends with, her going down, one path, Batman going down another. And to me, they're each going to become who they're meant to be. Like, in this movie, Bruce Wayne is Batman, but there's still a lot more Batman growth he has to make. And Selena Kyle, she still has yet to become the Catwoman. Like, she has like a moment in this movie, which you saw in the trailers and the clips, where she steals, but she's not a thief yet. She's just doing this for a specific reason. She's doing this because Carmine Falcone is her dad, and he, killed her mom, and this whole plot like that. So she's not yet the Catwoman that goes around, just stealing whatever she wants. But I think that the movie did a great, solid laying of the foundation to show that one day she'll become that. Gordon, Jeffrey Wright is Jim Gordon. Gary Oldman is still my favorite Gordon, but he's like a close second. It's like this Gordon and his relationship with Batman felt so real, felt so grounded, even more grounded than Gary Oldman and Christian Bale. It was so grounded. He really just felt like this normal police officer working with this Batman, this guy in a costume, but he felt really real. They had a great dynamic, great back and forth, great, relationship in terms of working together. It's fantastic. The Riddler, oh my god, look, I don't have enough time in the day to talk about the Riddler. I don't have enough time in the day to talk about all the characters here, but I'm gonna shine a light on the Riddler. He had me debating whether or not he was the second best Batman movie villain. Because number one, Heath Ledger's Joker. Number two, I had Tom Hardy's Bane. But there's a scene, the interrogation scene, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. That moment, I was like, dude, this guy might be the second greatest Batman villain in the movies. But in my opinion, I still have Tom Hardy's Bane there. He's still much more quotable, still has a much more menacing presence. But Paul Dano's Riddler came so close. It's funny because he was such a different Riddler during the movie, but then when you got to that interrogation scene and he's unmasked, he really becomes the Riddler that you know in the comics, in the series, in the games. He's Riddler. And I hope we see more of that. I hope we see more of him as that Riddler. Less of the, Jigsaw, Hush kind of killer, Calendar Man kind of serial killer Riddler. I hope we see a little less of that and more of the Riddler he's like an egomaniac who believes he's smarter than everyone else, and he's just very tortured, psychotic soul. I hope we see more of it. Paul Dano knocked out the park. But this movie was just really great from a Batman mystery noir detective story, which we don't really get much of in the movies. Like, I feel like the most detective work we got in the other movies was Bale when he reconstructed, the bullet in The Dark Knight. But other than that, it's not much, of the world's greatest detective there. But this movie was truly world's greatest detective. It's like all the riddles were like clever, and they really made you think. It's like, oh wow, I didn't think about it. Oh, this is what this means. Oh, that's great. The action. There was action in this movie, and it was great. specifically the Batman car chase in that Mustang, a muscle car Batmobile, which is the greatest Batmobile chase ever. Like, it just is. Like, the sound design, just him running, into barrels, and him just when he knocks over, Penguin's car is just, oh, dude, it's amazing. It's great. And even like, the hand-to-hand fighting. It's not the Ben Affleck warehouse scene. I don't think anything will touch that, but it's a very close second. Like, he's still, you can see that he's not, the master martial artist that Ben Affleck is. He hasn't had, any sort of ninja training or assassin training. He still has more to grow in the fighting area. He's much more in this movie like a brute force. He's just walking, tanking bullets in his armor, and just beating you down, and then beating you down even more, which I love. But I want to see more of a growth into more of the tactical mind of Batman, and I think we will. If we get a trilogy. Matt Reeves is going to tell that story of him becoming the Batman we all know. What else to talk about? Penguin, great. Colin Farrell, dude. I can't wait for his HBO Max series. He killed it as Penguin. Andy Serkis' Alfred. That's one of the few critiques I have of the movie. He wasn't in there a lot. I feel like he should have been in there a lot more. Not a lot more, a little bit more. I feel like we could have got more of Andy Serkis' Alfred, but what we did get was amazing. Since I'm already talking about a little bit of the critiques I had, I will say at a point in the movie, it felt a little long. Like, it got to a point where I thought the movie was over. I'm like, okay, the movie's over. But then my mind thought back to, wait a minute, we didn't get the scene of Riddler talking to Batman, behind the glass. We didn't get the scene of the floods happening. So I was like, okay, the movie's not over yet, even though I feel like it probably should be. But that interrogation scene, dude, it hooked me back. I forgot all about, how much I felt like the movie was being a little long, because it just sucked me right back in. And then when we go to the scene where he's at the Gotham Square Garden with the flood, and he's beating up those, Riddler goons, and he blows the roof off the arena, just flies through, just starts destroying people. It's like, oh, dude, it's so Batman. It is so Batman. Another critique I have is that the movie, it's not made for everyone. Like, I know most people are going to bring their kids to this movie because it's Batman and kids love Batman, but I don't think kids are really going to enjoy this movie because it's a slow burn noir detective psychological thriller movie. So a lot of time I think kids are going to be bored, or going to be asleep, and that's something I hope they do fix in the second movie. I hope it kind of dial it back, make it more digestible for everyone, not just us who can enjoy a good, well drawn out story. I hope they add a little more for everyone to enjoy in more movies. One last critique. Well, there's two more critiques, but one critique in particular. There is a Joker cameo in this movie. We kind of see him, but we don't. We just hear his voice, which is the guy who played Druig in Eternals. I don't know how to say his last name. I think it's Barry Keoghan or something like that. That scene felt a little bit tacked on. I feel like it should have just been an after credit scene, but it wasn't. It was kind of just towards the end of the movie. I feel like it could have been an after credit scene. It would have been better. And then my last critique is just, okay, there comes a point in the movie where Batman and the GCPD, they arrest Riddler, and they go into his house, and he's got all this stuff on the walls about all what he's going to do. And there's like this giant wall that looks like it's devoted to the fact that he knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. But as we come to find out in the interrogation, he doesn't actually know. But when all the cops are looking at that wall, I'm like, how are none of you cops looking at that and saying, oh, the Riddler is saying Bruce Wayne is Batman? And then they look at him and like, yeah, your jaw does kind of look similar. I'm like, wait a minute, Bruce, you're Batman. Like, that's the one thing I felt like it kind of took me out a little bit. I'm like, you guys mean to tell me you don't see that this man is saying, even though he wasn't, this man is saying Bruce Wayne is Batman? But that's just like a little small nitpick to me. But other than that, phenomenal movie, phenomenal acting, phenomenal, direction, all in the whole 9 yards. I recommend you guys go see it. And I want to see more of this movie because there's so much world building that they did, so many seeds they planted. I mean, there's like some references to Hush, some references to who else? You know, we could have a Harvey Dent because the district attorney does die in this movie, so maybe Harvey Dent comes in. There's some, you know, obviously some stuff. You know, we have Joker in it. I feel like there's a lot of world building. At a point, Batman injects himself with some green liquid, which I think is venom. So maybe we could be seeing Bane down the line. There's like a lot. Oh, and then at some point, Catwoman mentions that she's gonna go to Bloodhaven. That's where Nightwing, you know, mainly operates. Maybe we'll get Nightwing one day. He'll go there. Oh, and there's like a scene. The mayor in this movie, he dies, and he has a kid who is now half an orphan. Like, he still has his mom, but he's not really an orphan. But it's clear that Batman sees himself in this kid. And in the beginning of the movie, we see the kid on Halloween wearing like a red ninja outfit. So I'm like, this kid might end up being Robin. And the thing is, he's not Dick Grayson, he's not Jason Todd, he's not Tim Drake. I hope they somehow bring him around to be one of those characters somehow. But it looks like he could be Robin. We could be getting Robin one day. Finally have ourselves a Batman and Robin on screen again. After the last time we had it was Batman and Robin. Like, I want to see Batman and Robin together on screen in live action. I feel like Robin, ever since that movie, has just been getting disrespected. Like, in The Dark Knight Rises, we had the little cheeky throwaway line. Oh yeah, John Blake, you should use your real name, Robin. Get that out of here, bro. Give me an actual Robin. I didn't mean to go on a rant there, but I love this movie. It's like a 10 out of 10 movie for me. Honestly, it is. It's one of the greatest Batman movies ever made. And I hope to see more from this world, from this, just Matt Reeves, man, do your thing. Do your thing in this corner, away from everything else. Do your own thing. And then maybe one day, if you want, you can cross over. Do like some multiverse shenanigans. Who knows? But anyway, that was my review. My very rambly, all over the place review of the Batman. Hope you all enjoyed. Click that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. My name is Darius the Great, and that is all I had to say.